When you think of Antarctica, what comes to mind? Endless ice sheets, howling winds, and temperatures that can kill you in minutes. It's literally the most inhospitable place on Earth, a frozen wasteland where almost nothing can survive. But here's something that might blow your mind. Antarctica wasn't always the icy hellscape we know today. In fact, for most of its existence, Antarctica was a lush, tropical paradise filled with palm trees, dinosaurs, and rainforests so thick you couldn't see the sky. I'm not talking about some distant, alien planet. I'm talking about the exact same continent that's currently buried under 2 kilometers of ice. The same landmass where temperatures regularly drop to minus 80 degrees Celsius was once home to crocodiles basking in swamps and forests so dense they rivaled the Amazon. So how did Earth's tropical paradise become its frozen hell? The answer is a story of continental drift, climate catastrophe, and one of the most dramatic transformations our planet has ever witnessed. Let's travel back about 100 million years to the Cretaceous period. Earth's climate was radically different from today. Back then, there were no polar ice caps anywhere on the planet, and global temperatures were so warm that palm trees grew in Alaska and crocodiles swam in the Arctic Ocean. But Antarctica? Antarctica was the crown jewel of this prehistoric paradise. Fossil evidence shows that the continent was covered in temperate rainforests with massive coniferous trees, some reaching heights of over 40 meters or 130 feet tall. These weren't the scraggly, wind-beaten trees you might expect. These were towering giants that created canopies so thick that the forest floor was in perpetual twilight. The temperatures were incredible by today's standards. While modern Antarctica averages around minus 50 degrees Celsius, Cretaceous Antarctica enjoyed balmy temperatures of 10 to 15 degrees Celsius or 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. That's warmer than many places in Europe today. There were no seasons as we know them, just endless spring-like conditions that allowed life to flourish like nowhere else on Earth. Rivers meandered through these forests, creating vast wetlands and swamps where prehistoric creatures thrived. The air was thick with humidity and filled with the sounds of insects, bird-like dinosaurs, and the rustling of massive fern fronds in the gentle breeze. And speaking of dinosaurs, Antarctica was absolutely crawling with them. We're not talking about a few scattered bones here, and their paleontologists have discovered evidence of entire ecosystems of dinosaurs that called this frozen continent home. One of the most remarkable discoveries was Cryolophosaurus, a large carnivorous dinosaur that lived about 190 million years ago. This beast stood over 2 meters or 6.5 feet tall and stretched nearly 8 meters or 26 feet in length, making it one of the largest predators of its time. But here's the kicker: it had a distinctive crest on its head that earned it the nickname Elvosaurus, because it looked like the king's famous pompadour hairstyle. But Cryolophosaurus wasn't alone. The continent was also home to massive herbivorous dinosaurs like Glaciolosaurus, plant-eaters that munched on the abundant vegetation growing in Antarctica's forests. These weren't small creatures either. We're talking about multi-ton animals that moved in herds across landscapes that today are buried under miles of ice. Even more fascinating were the marine reptiles that populated Antarctica's coastal waters. Plesiosaurs with necks longer than school buses glided through warm, tropical seas, while massive marine crocodiles patrolled the shorelines. The oceans around Antarctica were so warm that coral reefs flourished, creating underwater gardens of stunning beauty and diversity. Perhaps most mind-boggling of all, there's evidence that some dinosaurs actually lived through Antarctica's 4 months of winter darkness. Remember, even when Antarctica was warm, it was still positioned at the bottom of the world, which meant extended periods of polar night. Yet these creatures somehow adapted to living in total darkness for months at a time, something no large land animal does today. So what happened? How did this tropical paradise transform into the frozen wasteland we know today? The answer lies in one of the most dramatic climate shifts in Earth's history, a transformation that took millions of years, but ultimately changed the face of our planet forever. The key player in this story is continental drift. Around 50 million years ago, Antarctica began its slow journey toward the South Pole. As it moved south, it gradually separated from Australia and South America, becoming increasingly isolated. This isolation was crucial because it disrupted the warm ocean currents that had been keeping the continent balmy. Before this separation, warm tropical currents could flow freely around the globe, distributing heat from the equator to the poles. But as Antarctica became isolated, a new circulation pattern emerged: the Antarctic Circumpolar Current. This massive ring of cold water effectively cut Antarctica off from the rest of the world's warm ocean currents, creating a thermal barrier that trapped the continent in increasingly frigid conditions. The cooling didn't happen overnight. It took tens of millions of years for Antarctica to transform from tropical paradise to frozen wasteland. The forests gradually died back, starting at the highest elevations and slowly retreating toward the coasts. Many mammals, birds, and reptiles either migrated away or went extinct. The warm weather plants were replaced by cold-adapted species, which survive today mainly as mosses and lichens, though most vegetation eventually disappeared as ice spread. By about 34 million years ago, the first permanent ice sheets began forming on Antarctica's highest peaks. These ice sheets grew larger and thicker over millions of years, eventually covering the entire continent in a layer of ice up to 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles thick in some places. Antarctica's story is both a window into the deep past and a mirror for our future. Beneath its ice lie the traces of a lost world, perfectly preserved, while above it we witness the ongoing forces of change that will shape what comes next. It's a reminder that Earth is never still. Forests can become ice can give way to seas, and entire continents can be reborn in forms we can hardly imagine.